Hello.
Hi.
We're back.
We're back.
You know what's fun? That our last episode was about our TikTok drama, and our TikToks from it are
They're
actually
doing really
well. Like, look at how the universe turns around.
I know.
We're just learning how to deal with negative comments on TikTok. It's been funny. If you didn't listen to last week's solo unpacking about boundaries and TikTok drama, it's truly one of our favorites. Please go listen to it. We're just ripping a lot of TikToks from it, and people think we're funny, which makes us think we're funny because, you know, we love validation. Why did you have to wake up just when we start recording?
Because she hates me, Meadow.
She really does. Yeah, do you hate Gabby? She really looks like it too. Ready? I love just giving people the YouTube view of her. I'm Hall.
Oh, she looks sweet right now.
Yeah, she's like fucking screaming. Oi, oi, oi. How's your morning been?
My morning's been great. I'm on day 4 of my period, and I have a really funny period story that I'm not going to tell on here. So
you went to Pilates on your period?
I know. I'm just as shocked and horrified as you are.
Holy shit.
But it's because it's day 4.
Yeah, fair.
My mood's back up. I
Nice.
think I haven't been in a while, you know, but remind me to tell that on Patreon because
boy, will I. We have a couple good Patreon stories we need to tell, by the way. If you haven't been on there, we are ripping Patreon only unpackings with a lot more tea.
Like to the point that like I thought this was going to be a Patreon recording unpacking. That wasn't a sentence, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
And Meadow told me like a little bit ago, being like, we need to know. It needs to just be for public. I have so many things that I wrote down that I can't say here. So you really should tune in.
And Patreon's really become our safe space. Like we truly let it fly on there.
Yeah, we really do.
Yeah.
If you're interested in my dating life at all.
Okay, so I have, speaking of TikTok and your dating life, I have a follow-up to our story last week. If you, once again, haven't listened to last week's episode.
Last solo.
Gabby told a story about dating or running into boys with the same name. And I would just like to address part of the story that you left out, which I don't know if you want to include, so we'll see. But that,
Okay.
the street name.
I did include that.
Right. Did you include the fact that you're now dating a new man whose name is the name of the street name? Yeah, you didn't, did you? So I just wanted to include that in there just to keep the saga going for the people. Sorry.
I am.
I literally wrote it down on my phone because I was like,
I am. And I haven't even told some of my friends because I'm that embarrassed. Like when Carter was over the other day and I was talking to him about it. Carter's my best male friend, FYI, if you ever hear me talk about him. I didn't even tell him what his name was. Because I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it.
God, well, it's not
by
like
the way,
you're
we're not
seeking
dating.
it out.
We've been on,
you're
by
not
the
dating.
way.
You've been
sorry.
on one date. Yeah, it's not real. Yeah.
It's not real.
But it's still funny. It's still worth the mention.
It's so annoying.
You said you had things that you want to share on Patreon. Can you share like no version of that? No? Okay. Cool. You want me to start with my unpacking then? Because
go right ahead.
Mine's about abuse. You're what?
No, please go ahead.
Okay, so I haven't even told Gabby this because we've been waiting. Now, even when we have like just normal bestie calls, I'm like, oh, I got to tell you about it on the pod. Basically, you know, what was it? Not this past weekend, but the weekend before, how I was just wallowing in my own psychosis and was a raging cunt for no weekend. You do know that. I deduced, thanks to Aaron figuring it out, obviously, and not me, abusive relationships impact you a lot longer than you want them to. And I hate feeling like a victim. And I don't want to feel like a victim. And I just, there's so much shadow work already around like being in the field of mental health and still being in an abusive relationship. You know, I have all that shit that I've already worked through. And if you're new here, our very first episode of all time was about toxic relationships. And
please don't listen to it.
Please don't. Gabby does not want anyone to listen to it. But the root of it was both of us have been in relationships that have been toxic and also abusive. And there's a distinction. You know, go listen to it on your own time if you want to learn that distinction. But it was showing up in small ways over time that I just didn't really realize until it just hit me all at once. But one of the small ways in which my abuse is showing up right now, which I think just might be interesting to share in case anyone else is going through it, is that I cannot get dressed anymore. Like I have no clothes in my closet that feel like me and my energy. And I think we've talked so much about masculine and feminine energies on here. And I think I'm learning more and more to lean into my feminine alongside healing from the abuse and trauma. Like it's really allowing me, as I let that go, it allows me to lean into the feminine side of that more. And just grappling with all of that, it got to the point where like Aaron and I go in our closet and look around and there's not one thing I can wear. Like I don't, it sounds so silly and so trite, I guess, but it's to the point where like I put things on and it impacts my mental health of the day because I don't feel like represented to how I feel. And I'm such an aesthetically driven person. I've talked about this with you with my house. I'm such an aesthetically driven person that like when I don't feel like I am fully getting all that self-expression out in terms of whatever creative outlet I'm looking for, whether that is, you know, home design, interior designer, like the outfits I'm putting together, it monumentally impacts my mental health. And it sounds so silly and so small, but I swear to fucking God, that shit is really adding up. So anyway, I'm selling all of my clothes on Depop at It's Meadowlark. Please go buy them.
Please go buy them. I have a question. I have a question. Before you dated this ex, did you dress more feminine or was it like?
No, in high school, I wore shorts to school once, even though I live in San Diego and it's hot all the time because I had crippling insecurities
but that was insecurity.
How big I was. Yeah, it had nothing to do with feminine energy. It had everything to do with insecurities. But because of that, I never really wore dresses. Like I wore, when I was a little girl, I only wore dresses. I was the most girly girl of all time. And then by middle school, high school, I was so insecure about being like bigger than boys because I was curvy and other white girls in San Diego were not. And I was so insecure about that I just like came off more boyish because masculine energy helps you override insecurity. At least it did for me. But so now as I just look around and I have, you know, no clothes that feel like me. And it's fun to, I mean, you saw my 2021 New Year's resolution. I had a whole 2 pages of them that I posted on Instagram, obviously forever ago. But one of them was wear more dresses. And so like I've gone a couple more dresses and I feel that way, but it just,
I know. And I've noticed it when you come here too, and you're like asking to borrow mine and Maddie's clothes. It's like, it's more specific. But the reason that I asked you that is because I think I don't know if I've spoken about this on the podcast, but do you remember when I told you how when I got out of my abusive relationship, and to be very clear, like if you're just tuning in, because we've been getting new listeners. So hi, welcome.
Hey.
When I say my abusive relationship, it was emotionally abusive. It never turned physical. Meadow experienced both, just to clarify. During that relationship though, I never felt safe enough to like live in my feminine energy because I always felt like I had to be combative in order to protect myself. And I guess that's why why I asked you that of like, what does that have to do with your clothes now? Like, did you embody
so I
them?
moved. I just like haven't really, I don't know. I feel like I do shop, but it'll be like random bits and pieces here and there. And I love trading clothes and giving away and borrowing clothes and whatever. But I feel like I came down and met Aaron at this time where I was like fresh out of Oakland, fresh out of the abusive relationship, was not only very combative and in my masculine in terms of coping with that, but also like politically, and was very social justice warrior and very politically charged to a fault. And I just have been like undoing and growing softer in a lot of different areas in my life. And then looking around and realizing that like the uniform and outfits I would wear that make me feel good and confident then have nothing to do with the characteristics and qualities of what gives me those feelings now. And it's like a physical embodiment of that almost.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting when people, and I get into these fights a lot with like someone like my sister, for example, where we argue about the amount of attention that we put into our appearance. I've gotten into fights with her more in the past of like, you care so much about your appearance. Like, I don't have time to shop. Like, I'm doing more busy things. I'm doing more important things. I don't have time to shop. Is that saying
this or you?
My sister. And first of all, I mean, that's a whole other thing for her to share and, you know, not my thing to get into. But I would always get so frustrated. And this was especially, we would have these fights a lot when I was in college and I was interning in fashion. And I would get really frustrated because I was like, it really pisses me off when people think that fashion is so frivolous, because what we put on our bodies every single day is such an embodiment, like you said, and a representation of how we're feeling literally inside out.
Absolutely.
Forget about the designers that you're supporting and the political commentary and the social commentary, because art reflects culture, culture reflects art, like it all is one thing. But forget about all of those other things. and just think about the fact that what you're putting on, how that impacts you, how you feel. Like, how good do you fucking feel when you're going for a night out with your friends and you feel hot as fuck? Like, you walk into
Next
a
level.
room different.
Different.
Your chest
And you
is a
know
little bit
what?
more
It's
out, your
not for
head's a little
everyone.
higher.
Which is fine. People lean into different art and different ways of self-expression. Like some people go wild with their makeup and big, beautiful, creative, avant-garde. You and I are not as into that. But if we put together a fit that feels exactly like the mood and energy we want to be in that day,
Yeah.
it's like putting on cute workout clothes to go to the gym because you actually will go and work out harder, or you know what I mean, or like show up for yourself in a different way.
It really annoys me when people boil things
Diminish
down
it.
to just being like a stupid girly thing that you care about, or being superficial. Even when people cut their hair, I just got into this fight with one of our friends because I was like, when I got my hair cut, it was shorter than I thought it was going to be, and I was really annoyed about it. And like, I didn't fucking cry about it, but like,
no,
I could have. And I was just annoyed, and I was like, okay, this is an adjustment, whatever. And they were like, I can't deal with people who get upset. It's fucking hair. And I'm like, no, maybe because you look really good with short hair, but like, I've had long hair
have
my
you ever met
whole
an
life.
Indigenous person? And like, do you know how important hair is to other cultures? 2 days ago, Aaron turned to me and said, our children will not be cutting their hair. And like us learning braids and protective hairstyles is going to be such a huge thing because not only is he Black, he's also Native American. And both of those cultures he has such a strong feeling and representation and embodiment and culture tied to his hair. Like, that's just such an
me being
ignorant
Latina,
perspective.
like I grew up all, like it wasn't
everything.
culturally, like it, I mean, there's so many nuances and discriminations like weaved into Latin hair. And again, like, first to check my privilege here, like I'm super white passing. I'm fully a white Latina. So like I have straighter hair and like didn't have to go through that whole motion that, or I shouldn't dismiss it and say the whole motion, like all the fucking discrimination that all these women have gone through of straightening their hair and looking more Eurocentric, because that's what's considered attractive in our fucked up society. But what I will say is that like in Latin culture, period, it's like women, when you're little, like your parents they cut your hair, you get a haircut, but you always have long hair. It's being very feminine is what is ingrained in our culture, where it's like the dainty, delicate Latina woman that like can't take care of herself and just like needs a man. And that again,
which is why you have long, beautiful hair, but then thousands of dollars of laser bills because it's nowhere else on your body.
Like I got I fucking lasered my whole body when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
I was using Jolene from God knows how long, Nairing every bit of my body and burning my skin.
Nair was an atrocity.
Which is, by the way, like
I know it's still around.
They talk about this in Euphoria. They gloss over. They don't talk about in like I don't remember. In the first season with Maddie's character, they talk about how Nate like doesn't like any hair and like she's like super slick. And I'm like, what they don't talk about in that, which was kind of like a wasted opportunity. I know that show literally talks about everything, but it was a wasted opportunity, I think, to not talk about the fact that like she's a Latina character with like thick ass eyebrows and thick ass gorgeous hair. Like, you don't think that bitch has hairy arms and like a hairy fucking happy trail?
Well, when they showed
and a mustache,
Sydney Sweeney doing all her primped prep for 4 hours before, it would have been so funny to cut to Maddie, like Jolene all over her body, like getting lasered everywhere. Like
my friends and I in high school,
off, you know?
We would send each other the funniest Snapchats of all of us with like Jolene on like our mustache, our stomachs, and our arms like naked, like cheese. Like, this is what people don't see,
share and talk about and
share. And like, so it just frustrates me when people like diminish and boil down our appearance to just being superficial, because there's so fucking much that goes into it. And it's so much that goes into how you feel.
Right. And if it's not for you, great, go off. And I hope you're getting that self-expression somewhere else. But if it is for someone else, who are you to say, I can't deal with people that are going to cry over their hair? Who are you to do that? What if I said that about you and your magic cards? I don't know what brings you joy. Don't yuck my yum. My God.
I love that, your magic cards. I've never heard you say that.
Well, Aaron just went to that brain dead magic event, just speaking of clothes, because Comic-Con happened recently. And he said it was the most steezy, like magic thing he's ever been to. And he said it was the sweetest thing in the world to witness, because it's something that's stereotypically dorky, but then you have all these like cool brain dead kids trying to show it. He just said it was like the sweetest thing to kind of see that come together in a fun way.
Would you date a magician? I mean, you're getting married to Aaron, but in
Oh,
general.
God. You know, my mom and brothers, one of their favorite jokes is people that are into ventriloquism. Like my mom is like terrified of people that are into ventriloquism. And we kind of use it as a baseline to be judgmental and cruel as we're talking about not judging other people. Yeah, no, I don't think I could do magician. I don't.
I asked you because we were talking about it this weekend, because when we were out with our friends the other day, one of the girls that we were with like has like a whole squad of magician friends in LA that like all work at the Magic Castle. And she like she's like this gorgeous, like tall model who like rolls up with these like magicians. It's so funny. And then we were all like, I don't think I
kind of love that.
No, I love it for her.
That's pretty cool for her. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I just don't think I could do it. And then we started going through the list of like careers that you wouldn't date.
Of all the things that would make me not date someone, career is not like the first thing I jump to, I would say. Like career options is not the first thing that would give me an ick or give me a red flag.
No, I'm not saying ick or red flag. I just mean like things that you, would think about. Like we were talking about, like, would you date a politician? Would you date a cop? Would you date a firefighter? Like all of those sort of things.
You know, it's funny. Aaron has wanted to be 2 out of 3 of those. Aaron wanted to be a cop growing up his whole life. And I'm like, please don't. He still talks about maybe he'll go there someday. And I'm like, I totally understand wanting to make systematic changes from within, because I don't believe that being in an echo chamber helps create any changes and helps move our society forward. But like, can you not be that one? Like, you're already doing great God's work. Like, please.
No, it's just like his safety. It's from that perspective of like, to be able to be the anxiety of being married
to
someone who's putting their life in danger. Or someone like in the army, in the military. Like those are the conversations we were having. It wasn't like ew, the magician one was. But the rest were like
the rest were more, no, I feel that. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm going through. I'm feeling a lot better about it now. It's been very fun to explore and play with it. So now I'm trying, because I spent 2 days crying and wallowing in my own psychosis and feeling through those feelings. Now it's been really fun and empowering to like look at everything you guys are wearing, look at stuff online, go on Depop, figure out what feels good, and just kind of experiment and play. So now I'm in a new phase where I'm just going to start playing with my look.
That makes me really happy and excited for you.
It's kind of fun, right?
Yeah, because
when I come up and borrow your clothes, that's what I will be doing. I will be trying
on
everything.
I'm also still in that. I'm still
I know you are.
Figuring out, because I think quarantine did that to all of us, where it was like we just like, look what I'm wearing. I record in sweats all the time, and like it's what I wear when I'm home, and it's what I'm comfortable. And sweats are like cute, but like I just got so comfortable like not getting dressed. Like I feel like I forgot how to like put outfits together, and like I'll always look at the photos of me living in New York, and I'm like, oh God, I like really fucking showed out to just go to the office.
Oh,
and like,
wasn't that the good old days?
I remember
living with your girlfriends and sharing clothes.
Yeah, like in college, and
never put together better outfits.
Seriously, and like just being inspired by other people, and like I like even during quarantine when I was like living with my parents, like one time I like went to go work out outside, and I like put on a workout set, and my stepdad was like, I forgot that you were like thin.
My uncle has fully said that to me before.
And I was like,
I literally was living with my family, going to school, whatever. Once again, always just casual and comfortable. And then one time was going out and had like a tight top and tight pants on. And my uncle literally was like, I forgot your waist was that small. And I was like, cool, bet.
Seriously.
Because I don't always want to be perceived. I love going on dog walks and wearing my all male clothes and being like, please do not perceive me today. You know, there's always a time and a place for everything.
There's always a time and a place. And I love when it's in my control. That's the whole point.
Exactly. That's the whole point. It's a fun thing to be able to have the control to self-expression.
We could talk about clothes and the nuance.
Yeah, please switch us, because I'll keep going.
I mean, what do I have to unpack?
Yeah.
I started therapy. I had my first therapy session last week. I think I mentioned, I don't know if it was on the Patreon only or out. That's gonna be bad. I'm gonna always forget where I said things.
I know.
So I guess you just have to sign up for our Patreon to just make sure.
Just to cover your bases.
Just to cover your bases. I think I spoke about it on the podcast that I'd done my consult and I really liked her. And then I went in person, and she's really cool. And what I like about her, first of all, she has a beautiful view, which you would not think for like a building in like Encino.
Wow.
And it has a gorgeous view. What's fun is that because it's in Encino, now we're on the conversation of Encino, it's reframing Encino for me, because someone that I used to hook up with lived there. And that was the only reason I would ever go over there. It just really always gives me like the ick. Like,
Of
Like
course.
his
Yeah.
home is like 5 minutes from my new therapist
Yeah.
office. And so I was at dinner with some girlfriends, and one of my friends is the one who recommended her to me, this new therapist. And she was like, "Oh my God, I'll give you a list of like all my favorite coffee shops," like because she lives in the area. So she's like,
Reframe.
"I'll give you all the coffee shops and like all the restaurants that you can like go to after," because I've been going in the morning.
Cute.
And I was like, amazing. I will reframe
Good.
and like get a new thing. So that's exciting. And what I like about her is that she is reactive. So maybe if you've never tried therapy,
My next question.
this is like a good thing for people to think about. And I talked about in that episode when I said I was going to the consult, like what I asked her during our phone
Consultation
consult.
call. Yeah.
And so this time, what I really enjoyed about her personality was that she was very reactive. Because for me, like I don't like the feeling of speaking to someone who feels like I'm talking to a wall. And like,
Which
yeah,
they're
she's
trained to
not.
do.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
I like
just
that
creepy, honestly.
sometimes she wasn't always reactive,
Oh,
but
for
like,
sure.
for example, like, first of all, love that she wasn't taking notes
Mm-hmm.
because then you can like, she writes it all down after or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know her
Mm-hmm.
style. But I said something about like my mom or something, and I just like glossed by it. I was like telling a story and I said it, and she like giggles and she's like, "I'm gonna remember that." And I was like, "Oh yes."
Oh,
I
good.
was like,
Oh, good.
unpack
She's
the
got a little,
trauma.
yeah. She's got personality. Do we love a
Yeah, she's
therapist with
cool.
personality?
She's cool, and I feel very comfortable talking with her about like pretty much any. I mean, listen, you know me, I'll talk about pretty much anything with anyone, but there's obviously levels of comfort. And with her, like I didn't get into it yet, but like I know that when the time comes, like I'm gonna feel very comfortable talking about sex and
Cool.
things like that.
What is the difference between your previous therapist that you've spoken about on the podcast before and this one that makes you feel like, yes, this is someone I want to work with?
Honestly, I think that the other therapist I think was too young, which I liked in the beginning. I think she
Mm.
was like 32, which
Mm-hmm.
I liked to starting out, but then I was like, I don't know how I feel about it because like I think this woman's like in her like early 40s probably. And I think that like just knowing, again, this is me judging, but it's like just knowing that she's been in the field for like a certain amount of time and like had enough experience makes me like her. And the fact that she's like a parent, I really like. She has like 2 young kids. And again, the other one felt more gossipy, not because she was doing anything. It just like she wasn't giving me anything to work with. So it just felt like a giant venting session, which like I guess therapy can be, but it was unhelpful because she wasn't guiding me. It like she
This
would be
one's
like,
actually has life advice and wisdom and is
and she
holding
pivots
space and
me.
following up with pinging you about what to go into deeper.
Yes.
And yeah.
Because I will talk about the same thing. If you're not giving me any cues, like I will just ramble and ramble and ramble, which is so the point sometimes because you like work through your own shit. And that is helpful for me to like get to conclusions on my own. But at the same time, like if I say something that like pings her ear, she'll pick it up and she'll respond and she'll be like, okay, so like, why did you feel that way? Or like, not even those basic questions of like, okay, what happened there? Or like, whatever, just like
Mm-hmm.
guided me a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
listen, it was one session.
I love that
And
though. I love that you already have, seen different styles and are figuring out what works for you and what you're looking for. And like that's part of the process of going to therapy is it's sometimes we've said this before, sometimes it's kind of like dating. Like people have modalities
super
and
like dating.
approaches and you have to figure out someone that works for you and someone that's going to help you grow and like be honest about that and not placate you, and figuring out what that looks like. I love
Yeah,
that so much.
I'm excited. And I love that it's a proper office where like
Yeah. You
it's
have a space to go
like
into.
it's a space to go into and I can I don't live that close to Encino, but I don't mind it because I work from home. I'm always
Mhm.
home. Like I
Mhm.
don't want to also add that like not that therapy's always heavy, but like whatever heaviness may come, like I don't need to do it in the same space that I work and sleep.
Yes,
So it
absolutely.
is,
Yeah,
a luxury that I can drive to her. And
absolutely.
if I can't or I'm sick or whatever, like I can Zoom, but it is a nice luxury to have to like just get up and go. And I think that like I would urge people listening, if you have the opportunity, if you're in therapy or you're looking for a therapist, I would urge you to try and find someone who's nearby so that you have the option to go if your work allows that. Because I think we've gotten so complacent after the past 2-3 years now of like just doing everything from home because it's easier and whatever. But I think we've lost the magic of just going places and like interacting, even if it's with like literally other people on the street, or like what I'm doing, finding a new coffee shop. Like, what if I find a
That's
coffee shop that I'm like obsessed
neuroplasticity
with,
too.
and like
Doing
take my
new things,
computer and
taking the
like I'm
new
gonna
route.
work
Yep.
from the valley now.
Yeah.
Like, why would I ever go to the valley unless I'm like going to my friend's house or I guess now to therapy? So it's like great. Like now I love Studio City. It's right next to Encino, but I never want to drive there. So like great. Now I'll go hang out in Studio City after
Have an
therapy and like
excuse.
have a
Yeah.
day. So and that's nice too because it like gets the stickiness out of it after, and like you can go do those things if you can work from home. Like go work for somewhere like in a different neighborhood. It gets you out of your space. So I would urge people, if you're starting therapy or if you have the option with your therapist, to find someone that has the option of seeing them in person.
And I will co-sign even from another side of the flip side of the coin is holding space as an act in general feels different in person. It's energetically different when you're held in person. It just is. You know, it's so cool. My old therapist, Kim, does. She does walk and talk sessions. So rather than going and meeting her at our office, you go and meet up at the beach and you walk up and down the beach and talk to her. Like,
special.
How beautiful. And when the mind body is so involved, or if your trauma is in your body and you're being able to walk and talk, like it's just, there's so many different options and unique ways that people are
also
offering
like
services in therapy right now. It's so cool.
There's like a different pep in your step too. Cause sometimes, yes, you will leave therapy like feeling really depleted, but other times you leave therapy just feeling so fucking proud. I mean, I think you're proud anytime after because you're just like, I did it. But I had such a fucking pep in my step when I left that office. I was like, ooh, starting the day. And I like did it in the morning too, which I kind of like.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just like it set up the day and it was like a nice thing. It was like, okay, I work out in the morning. Now I'm doing therapy in the morning too. So it's like all of the like mental
mind body exercise in the morning, baby.
Stuff. And also just like, do you know how awkward it is to cry on Zoom?
Oh, no, because I haven't really done very many therapy sessions over Zoom. Most of mine were always in person.
It's
so no,
weird.
But I can fucking imagine.
It's weird. And by the way,
it would just make you want to close the computer.
Yeah, or like I'll be on my phone. Like I'll be distracted.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was, I guess, unpacking. And
I have work stuff that I want to talk about and unpack so fucking badly. And I can't at this point in time. But so much of it is wrapped up in shadow work and challenging ourselves. And we've talked about shadow work a few times. You know what? Do we want to do a shadow work rant right now? Like just random tangent?
Go for it.
I'm not necessarily prepared for it. And I don't want to go into a whole thing about like explaining the modalities behind it. But I think we've referenced it enough that it's worth it to say the way in which we approach it. To me, and the way I approach shadow work is parts of you that you project or judge on other things are an easy way to show you what are some things to work on of your own insecurities in yourself. Anyway, as I'm in a bad mood, talking about shadow work is pretty fucking appropriate, but in a bad mood about Mahal. We just had to pause again for Mahal to be a total and complete cunt. But
the way really normalizing the word cunt, by the way, on this podcast.
I love the word cunt. People have a problem with it, but it's your and I's favorite. We love it.
I just find it so fucking funny. Before it was like, that was just like my biggest insult for someone. And now I think I say it so much. Like fuck is my favorite curse word, and so is cunt. And so when I put them together, like you're a fucking cunt, it just like hits.
It hits deep so well. And you know what's fun about it too is just even the fact that it hits so hard here and other countries use it so much more casually. Like it's just kind of fun that already has such a difference and variance, if you will.
Also, like it just makes me feel grown. Do you know what I
mean? I'm not calling you a little bitch. I'm calling you a fucking cunt.
Like it's just fun for me. I don't know. Sorry, I really threw off your train of thought there.
No, you didn't. It's so funny. It helped me release that emotional energy so I can get back into it anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know. I'm going back into a lot. I mean, everything is self-worth, but with shadow specifically, it's about what parts of you can you not fully accept into your self-worth, and learning to me, it's not to like change yourself or to just only accept them for what they are. It's to make space around them. Like you can think you're cringe and not like it, but when you make enough space around you to accept that part of you and all the other good, it's just, I don't know. I guess I'm thinking about it right now more in terms of energetics, but I always imagine myself just like making more room around the sticky shadow thing to like fully envelop it and accept it as part of me. And it just allows you to feel so much more confident in every other aspect of life, which goes back to the you think anything you can call me. I haven't called myself something worse in my head already.
Yeah.
Conversation that is being loved on TikTok right now. And it's just, I don't know. I'm really vibing with shadow work recently. That's it. That's my long tangent.
No, do you know what though? I'm glad you brought that up because shadow work is something that freaks me out a little bit because that's
scary.
Basically all we freaking did when we were in Hoffman.
I bet.
And it's a lot of shadow work and a lot of just confronting it. And again, realizing that your negative patterns also have skill sets. So you can like keep those and thank them for what they can do for you. Love that lesson. But I've been noticing recently that after I left Hoffman, and it's funny that because I haven't even like conceptualized this until you just brought it up. So thank you for bringing up shadow work. After I left Hoffman for the past 3 years, have just been on this like bright journey of like, I love myself so much and I'm so great. And
I fucking love me.
I fucking love, literally one of my next tattoos is going to say, I love me. Yeah. And just like on this, like, I am a great person who like can fuck up, but like, frankly, do no wrong. Like obviously I can, you know,
it's
but
your step of your self-love journey right now.
I just think I trust myself enough to make decisions that if they're going to hurt anyone, they're going to hurt me, not like others. And I'm sure you always hurt others along the way in some way that's, not on purpose or whatever. We're going to continue to fuck up. But again, new fuck ups. And recently I was triggered and it was a really weird feeling for me because I was in a situation, which I'll tell you about off camera, but I was in a situation, you were there. I was in a situation where something in a social environment happened and my immediate reaction was, did I do something wrong?
What wound did it trigger? Can you share that in a general way or is it a little too specific?
So it is specific, but it's fine. It triggered in me of like, one of the things that I worked through when I was there was I would lie a lot to friends. And we can go into why I would lie a lot about men, at the time, boys. And it was
in
like
episode 1. We know why.
It was in episode 1. Basically, like, okay, if we're going to say the why, it's like, I was in a situation when I was younger where I was really vulnerable and like fell in love with a boy when I was 15 who like was in a relationship and he cheated on his girlfriend with me. And this is after like, he was, by the way, my first kiss when we were like in the fucking 7th grade and I was like in love with him and he was my best friend and, was telling me he was in love with me for a year and I believed him. I'm 14, 15 years old and he cheated on his girlfriend with me and half my friends didn't talk to me and we weren't friends with the girlfriend either. So it wasn't like she was a friend that, whatever. And that basically, obviously I didn't tell them, like, he's like, we got to keep this a secret. We got to keep it a secret. We were obviously doing something wrong. And
that response and the root of that situation set you up.
Sort of understanding that like, if I do something that morally does not align with what my friends think, then they will leave me. And it wasn't it was a feeling of conditional love that was felt. And I internalized that. And, my fault in that was that then as I grew up, instead of trying to have those conversations with them and maybe giving them the opportunity to tell me that they've changed that dynamic, I just got sneaky because I was like, it's going to happen again.
Love. Yeah,
it's going to happen again.
So
if I do something that you don't agree with, by the way, that was the only time I've done that, by the way. But like, it's not like I was going around. But in any way it showed up,
not just about men. In any morality situation, it would show up. Now you're having to be sneaky because that's been taught to you to be conditional. So you're operating to protect yourself. And receive love. Yeah.
Right. So what happened in Hoffman was I really worked through that concept of like, we did this thing called like vicious cycles, which is so funny because that's what we ended up calling. That's why I came up with that name, by the way, because I thought of it, which we ended up calling some of our episodes. But what the vicious cycles were like bringing up one pattern that's like your negative pattern and the cycle that it plays out in. So like you do the thing and then like what happens after it. You're tracing it, like pattern tracing. And
Helpful tools. If no one has done that
super
before,
helpful
please
tool.
go journal on that tonight.
You can look it up. It's really
Yeah.
helpful. We'll like link something in the show notes. But one of the things that I worked through was the narrative, because I told you, I was like, remember I had a friend who like told me I was a man eater, and they like meant it as a compliment.
And their mother.
And their mother also said it to me. And I basically had the narrative in my head of like, I am like a toxic, bad person that like takes men that like I know will fall in love with me and like make them fall in love with me and then like fuck with them just for like the internal satisfaction. And I definitely did do that with some people. And that was because I had done that, and my ex, the emotionally abusive one, knew that about me because I talked to him about it, like opening up. That was then used against me.
Yep.
When we'd fight, of being like, you know, you have me in the grip of your hand, and like, you know what you're doing to me when we break up, because I was always the one breaking up with him.
Which
and then
is
I'd get
so
back together, and it was just always my fault again.
And it's just, that's what I mean. It's so funny that he's so good at manipulation.
No,
that
he was
can
really
use
good
your
at
own
it.
manipulation to make himself feel like the victim.
Yeah.
That's love when abuse does that.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun tactic. So when the way that it came up recently, to bring it back and close the loop, is recently we were in a social setting, and I mean, I guess I'll just say what happened. It's fine. But someone was flirting with me that we had never met before, that like our other friend, like, I don't even want to say has a crush on. It's just like someone that she'd never met the person.
She would also hit it.
But she would also, it was like where our types overlapped. And he was flirting with me. And I was like adamant that he wasn't. And then by the end of the night, it was so obvious that he was.
Right.
That it made me so scared. And I like called Meadow, and I haven't even talked about it with our other friends. So like, maybe this isn't great that I'm airing this out on the podcast.
They don't listen.
They don't listen. They've told me.
Our friends
Thank God.
do not listen to our podcast, which honestly is probably better for us.
Yeah. But I told Meadow, I like was like, were they mad at me? And Meadow was like, no. And that was my first reaction, was like, I felt the most uncomfortable discomfort that I have felt in such a long time that night, because I was like almost trying to be like not even like make myself unattractive, but just like,
no, it's just bringing up those old wounds and just being like, how do I respond differently?
It made me feel like, was it my fault? Like is it my, like, is she, like, are they going to be mad at me?
Right.
Is it my fault? Did I do something wrong? Did I like look at him for too long? Did I like, like all of those things started going through my brain. And it was like, what's wild is that this friend and I are the polar opposites when it comes to like how we look. So honestly, it's like perfect, because it's like people just have different types.
Absolutely.
So like they're going to be out, and like someone that's hitting on them is going to never look twice at me.
Absolutely.
And that happens. And so it was just one of those situations that brought up all of that. And it made me so uncomfortable. And then it made me so scared that they were going to be mad at me. And then the next day they like picked me up, and we like chipper as fuck. Like, oh my God, how'd you sleep? Like nothing.
Did you ruminate it on it at night? Did you catch yourself and think, let me reframe? Like, how are you responding? Yeah.
No, in the moment as it was happening, I was like
petrified.
Oh my God, am I going to get now? Are they going to get mad at me?
Well, you warned me even. You like privately said something to me at one point even too. And
because that was my initial gut reaction, because that is what old friendships have taught me.
Right, of course.
Was like, it's my fault.
Was that by the next morning, their attitude of just not caring at all, did that officially like release you, or did it still leave lingering things and you had to work through it?
It really was a very sweet moment where like I got in the car and I just like let out like a oh my God, yes, Gabby, this is just another like affirmation that like you have brought people into your life who love you. And again, not that these people don't love me in high school, but
just in a way that you're looking for. Yeah.
And
do you think now if it happened again, even with that same friend, that in real time you would be able to watch those thoughts come up and just be like, I'm not even tolerating it because I've been here before and I'm learning this lesson? Or do you think,
I'm working through it?
Yeah.
I think I'm working through it.
Because I'm
I
going to
think it's
let
a
you know right
therapy
now
combo.
that situation will occur again.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you know right now
No,
because
I
I know
know.
it's like that's going to happen again. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to happen both ways all the time. Like that's just
Exactly.
things that happen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks. I
Because
didn't know that was going to
also
come up
while you were
today.
there, I know, nor did I, but also while we were there, like you were very calm, cool, collected, and any
I
of
was
those narratives you were saying to
shitting
yourself.
my pants.
Yeah. And all those narratives you were saying to yourself, you knew weren't true, even though you were shitting your pants, and you still handled yourself with grace and with love and with empathy, and it was all fine.
Yeah, but I did notice myself being extra nice to her that night.
Did you?
Not that I'm not nice to her, but I was just extra like lovey
Yeah.
because I was like uncomfortable.
Yeah. Which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever. Sometimes we do that and it feels good. I'm sure she appreciated the love, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, she's probably like, God, I'm really good today. You know,
Yeah.
like,
But
I'm
this
sure
is
it
what's
felt
cool
great.
about shadow work, which is I'm so glad that Meadow brought it up because it's like, this is the stuff that like a lot of times we get triggered. And this is another, sorry, everything I learned from Hoffman. Okay. I was born there apparently.
I need to
And
go.
all my memories were born there. But like another lesson is like oftentimes when people's behavior, when people are doing things that trigger us and like get a reaction out of us, it's usually a cue for you to look inside and be like, what the fuck has happened to me in my past that pissed me off this much? What parent does that remind me of? And like, yes, the person can still be an asshole, not mutually exclusive, as most things are not. But it is always a fun opportunity because we love turning everything into a lesson of reframing, like, where the fuck have
Use
I
your
experienced
triggers
that
as a
behavior?
roadmap. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Use your triggers as a roadmap.
It's the best.
Period.
Triggers are, I love saying this, and I think there's absolutely nuance in this statement. So everyone take it with a grain of sand, but I love saying triggers are your responsibility. And obviously there's a line with that, with as there is with
Mm-hmm.
all things. But I think in the way of using your triggers as a roadmap to figure out what are still blocking you and what to work through is such a powerful tool. Like I love telling people that are new to mental health work or new to whatever, if you don't know where to start, but you just know that you feel like gross or icky or sticky about those what X, Y, and Z situations, those situations are where you start. It's a beautiful place to start. And
Mm-hmm.
in fact, it's helpful to have triggers because it is a clear indicator of something that you can work on. Like
Yeah.
you can reframe it to really be like, oh, great. Like that's showing me exactly where I need help.
Yeah.
How cool.
And you know what's funny is that like now as we're having this conversation, especially like after like Meadow and I are posting a lot on TikTok. And if you guys found us on TikTok and that's why you're here, welcome
Hi.
to the motherfucking club. Okay. We're so happy you're here. But like some people on TikTok be crazy and in the
Yeah.
comments are wild. And like literally I just finished this whole spiel and like we're not turning that into a TikTok. Maybe we'll turn the triggers thing into a TikTok, but we're not gonna tell that story on TikTok.
No.
And like in my brain, I'm like, I can just already see people like listening, being like, oh, poor you. People hit on you.
Oh, yep.
That's where my brain goes.
But that's why I almost feel like TikTok has been kind of like a fun way to see shadow work because in the mass shooting one that I did and the Cuba one that you did, like when you see people respond in that way, it's to me having the experience come up over and over again is showing my brain over and over again how much of it is a projection of that person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like the more often it happens, the more I'm being like released and released and released from it. Like I'm kind of not, I'm not in any way into haters, but like I welcome the opportunity to have this experience on the internet because it's really showing me.
No, me too.
And it makes you look at yourself too. Like it's allowing me to, when I'm consuming others' content and feel this type of way, I can catch myself and be like, wow, that was judgmental, Meadow. Where'd you get that one from? And like, it's not like I'm commenting things because I don't comment mean things on people's stuff. I
Because
keep
if
it to
you
myself.
comment mean things, like you're a weirdo, bro.
Just keep it to yourself. It's
Just
not that
like
big a deal.
go for a walk.
Go for a walk.
I don't know, like
Honestly,
make a cake.
masturbate.
Fucking masturbate, bake a cake. Go
Yeah.
like
Just
play
go
with a
jerk
puppy.
off. Yeah.
Just
Chill
like
out.
maybe just don't be such a fucking dick. Like it's just would you say
But
it
you
to
know
my
what I
face?
mean? But it just exactly, but it just becomes it's so clearer and clearer that I kind of welcome it as an opportunity because it's one, helping me work on myself, and two, just helping me integrate my shadow more and really not take things personally because it's never about you. And even whatever judgment I'm going to project on someone else is such a side of myself that maybe they're not even showing themselves, or it just, I don't know, it just allows me to kind of release it more and more the more it happens. It's exposure therapy, I guess what I'm saying. Is like
bitch, it
TikTok
sure is.
has become our exposure therapy.
It really has. And also on top of that, it reminds you that at the end of the day, that was the point of this podcast was
Yeah, it was.
we
It's our
wanted
mission
to
statement.
have conversations that make people uncomfortable
Mhm.
and create narratives and
Mhm.
create conversation.
And
So,
discourse.
and
Yeah.
discourse and discussion. And like, I was looking at the comments on one of the TikToks recently and like people were going back and forth. Like, I love seeing the threads, like not just the
Mhm.
individual comments, like when people are commenting on each
No,
other's
comment
comments
threads. Yes.
and they don't agree with each other. And sometimes I'm like, okay, play nice, both of you.
Right.
Because
we can do
you
this
know,
in a respectful way.
yeah. But, and always, we're always going to ask that you please keep the comment section positive. Like,
Mhm.
there's always a
And
discussion.
feel free to disagree with us.
No, please.
You don't have to think anything that we think.
Like,
but
respectfully, you know what I think
respect
about?
other people.
Did you ever have like in school, did they ever call them like Harkness discussions?
No.
That was like, so we had these like our tables in a lot of my like classes that were English or history or like discussion based classes. We had a circular table.
Mhm.
So that like everyone's looking at each other.
Right.
And we would be like, they were called like Harkness discussions.
Mhm.
And I always think about that. Like when I'm reading comments, is the point is for people to have conversation and to debate. But debate as if like you were in class with a teacher sitting there, where like you're not going to be a disrespectful bitch to someone.
Mhm.
And like speak that way. Speak the way that you would want someone to just like to have conversation with you back. Because what the
Well,
fuck is the point if you're just yelling at
right.
each other? Like you're getting nothing across. First of all, like a lot of times the point is not to change someone's mind. It's just to expose them to a new way of
That's their
thinking.
point. That's why they're yelling. Because if you actually wanted to just share and have a discussion and you weren't gung ho on changing someone's mind, you would know that the best way to change someone's mind and have a productive discussion would to be to operate with respect and
Mhm.
kindness.
I
Because
mean,
the
listen,
second you operate with judgment, you think anyone's going to listen to you. How is that helping your cause? So you don't actually want to help your cause. You just want to yell and feel morally superior than someone else, which is a little gross. Maybe you should do some shadow work about it.
seriously, do you know what
keep
really
going.
helped me with that? The Trump election. Because
Woo-hoo!
I was such an angry bitch for so long.
Yeah.
And it really, Chelsea Handler talks about it, where
Mhm.
she was like, I wouldn't talk to someone. Like, you voted for him, like you fucking delete my number for the rest of your life. And she did a Netflix special about it. And she was like, I had to learn to have conversations. First of all, she was like, to understand where my anger was coming from, but
Mhm.
also like realize that like a lot of times, like we are not going to change people's minds, but just introducing the possibility, like we like talking about here, of something different.
Mhm.
Who knows? Like maybe in the future, someone who typically votes pretty conservatively now, understands social justice issues in a different way. And they might see a candidate that they would have never voted for just because on the ticket it says that they're a Democrat. But, this aligns now more morally with them and they saw the impact maybe in a different way. And now they're going to vote that way. It's like you never know what conversation will do. And people are 360-degree human beings. Like there's nuance with all of us. Now we're not talking about politics anymore. But like just there's nuance in all of us. And I think that's what Meadow and I are always trying to fucking talk about is like there's just nuance in
Gray.
everything. And I think the internet removes the gray and people like there was someone defending something that we said in the comments to someone who was like not even being aggressive. Like they didn't agree with us.
I saw that.
And like the person that was defending us, I was like, you need to relax. Like I'm gonna send you a
I think there's
vibrator.
also something, that's funny. We should do that. I think there's also something to be said about if you think you're the one that like should change their mind or can change their mind or like,
It's an ego thing.
yeah. And also, I think it's interesting in the way last week that we spoke about approaching the the Cuba situation and approaching social media with nuance. I don't think people ever show up to another person's online profile and operate with the same level of respect as someone standing behind you in a Starbucks line. Like there's
Never.
some weird thing about being online versus being in person that I think when people operate in person with each other, there's kind of a baseline level of respect because you honor them as another human being. Whereas you show up to someone in an online space, there is zero baseline of respect.
Mhm. It's really scary.
Absolutely. And it's
It's really
kind of like
scary.
that's only because it's behind a screen. Like we just immediately forget that there's humanity behind it. It's really interesting. And I wonder if Meta and Web3 and the future of lifelines getting blurred and blurred or blurred will make that easier to bring humanity into it or harder.
Well, yeah, and it's you know, it's the same thing of recognizing your triggers. It's like we are now just reaching way more people than we ever would standing on a soapbox. So it's like
Mhm.
we're reaching all these people who have infinite amount of triggers who either
Mhm.
don't have the tools or don't have the desire or the resources or whatever it is to, you know, do some work on themselves. And it's
That's a
like
beautiful point.
you're reaching these people that like you don't know where they're at in their lives and you never know what it's going to hit. And like, listen, for example, this podcast came up the other day that Tinks was on and
Mhm.
like whole other combo. Okay. This
Mhm.
is not
Mhm.
me saying
Mhm.
any judgment on Tinks. She made a point that I liked. And
Mhm.
she said, she was like, you know, the guy that was interviewing her, who, by the way, like, love that he has a podcast. His name's Jamie. I can't remember his last name. He was on the show Made in Chelsea, which is like the British version of The Hills, which I fucking love Made in Chelsea. And so this man like now randomly has a podcast.
Never heard of it in my life.
It was real fun for me to like see him on my
I'm
For You
so
page.
happy for you.
Thank you so much. It really brought something out of me. And she was on his podcast and he asked her something about like, do you ever just wake up and go like, not today with like the haters? And she was like, I mean, literally every day. And she made a point that was so valid. She was like, I mean, people are always going to find something. She's like, I could literally get on there and say, I ate a banana for breakfast. And she's like, and I can have a comment that says, you know, if you have X amount of bananas, you could die from potassium poisoning. So how dare you with your platform tell people to eat a banana
Mhm.
without the information? Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I was like, that
Mhm.
is so
Mhm.
fucking true, dude. Like
Mhm. Because their
people will
brother choked on a
find,
banana once or had potassium poisoning. Like you never fucking know.
it's like me going on being like, oh, I am wearing a tampon right now. And someone's like, how dare you? Because people
Absolutely.
can die of toxic shock. I'm like, you don't think I know
Right.
that? I'm a woman.
Right.
You don't think I know
we wear
that?
pads every night because we're terrified of that?
Yeah. Like, how dare you not in your 5-second TikTok say that you change your tampon every 2 hours to avoid toxic shock? Like,
You know what's interesting? I wonder
shut
if
up.
that, I know. I wonder if that is going to change because I think the whole idea of just influencers and marketing is changing so much too because you can have millions of followers and still basically be anonymous. And you could be a micro influencer and have much more impact and influence than people with other numbers. Like, I think this generation is just kind of changing. It used to be a lot of numbers behind you kind of
Mhm.
had some sort of certain connotation, and it's really not true anymore. And I think marketing in general is catching on to that more and more. And it's going to be interesting to see kind of like how this plays a role in it.
Do you know what, too, though? I think that TikTok, one of the beauties of it is that it's creating a generation of creators who actually will not tolerate your shit and have such
Yeah.
strong personalities. Like, you see people like Drew on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I love her on TikTok because she
Yeah.
just won't stand for your shit. And so I think before with influencers, the whole thing with influencers was that they were so curated and like frankly like didn't have a voice. And
Now it's more
now
voice than we want.
it's more voice because
Kidding.
people can't tolerate. I think we saw after everything that's happened in the past 2-3 years, people's tolerance for someone with nothing to say of value has gone down. And now creators who actually have something to say, even if we don't agree with it, but they're like opinionated as fuck,
Mm-hmm.
that's what people want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun because it's like they won't let you stomp on them. Like Teffy just made a TikTok about people shitting on her for not having perfect Spanish. And
Oh, I didn't see that.
it was so well done. And it was everything that I've always fucking thought because I'm in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And like not letting people diminish her for not being Latina enough.
Mm-hmm.
And like pointing out the nuance of, oh, and by the way, why do you think that my Spanish isn't perfect? Because my parents were so in a desire to assimilate that they spoke English in the household because they wanted me to have equal opportunity and not have an accent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do you think that all of us first generation kids don't have fucking accents?
And
And-
you're getting mad at someone that's the product of a system that's racist rather than the system in and of itself. Like it's just, it's such a misguided way to project that shit when you could be making systematic changes to contribute to something to be anti-racist. No, let's just yell at Teffy because she doesn't know that word in Spanish. Like it just.
No, exactly. It's that. And the same thing with the Cuba thing. I was talking about it with my stepsister last night because she was like, I was so upset looking at those comments for you because she's like, it infuriates me that people just know nothing about your life. Like someone commented like, how many plantations did your family own on our TikTok? First of all, like generational wealth like doesn't exist with Cubans. Like, yeah, if you're the fucking like Coca-Cola family that like got all their shit out before, but it's like that's
not your family, babes.
It just wasn't my family. Like my family wasn't poor in Cuba, but my family wasn't rich as fuck. And like when they left, even if they were rich as fuck, when they left with $0 fucking dollars. Like my stepsister was like my grandfather for $12. And like
I wonder if you sorry, keep going.
That I was just saying, then like you get to again a country that's not your home, you're forced to rebuild, and it's like any sort of generational wealth that will now exist in my family is because of my mother, because my mother had
built it from the ground up in her 20s.
Built it from the ground up. Like both my parents did. And like, even though my mom was the breadwinner in our family, both of my parents were able to build from the ground up, doing everything to put themselves through school. Like same with, especially my mom, like putting herself through school. That's what my stepsister was saying. Like her grandfather was fucking cleaning toilets for God knows how long. And like my stepdad was literally like broke and bankrupt and like learning all of these things. And everything that they have is because of what they fucking built and worked for. And now you're going to sit there in the comments yelling at me that like I'm a bad person or I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because I like grew up with parents who showed me what hard work is.
And even like, yeah, gosh, it just brings up so many things to me. Like part of me is like, even if you were born into a family that contributed to something that was racist, which is absolutely not the case, like you saw a 12-second TikTok, knew nothing about this person, projected that onto them. Also, I've never seen them before, have no idea what systems they're involved in, know that they release 1 hour a week of a public. It's just, that's what I mean. It's just so interesting that like, we really just grapple towards everything. And I also think it's very, ethnocentric, meaning I think the majority of the comments and people that we interact with are people that live in America, obviously, because we live in America. And that's just kind of, we have listeners in other countries, which is really fun. Hello, hi from other countries. I see you guys sometimes. But a majority, obviously, are just Americans. And I think we have such a discrepancy with the top 1% and hyper rich, unfathomable people. And then there's like really not, the middle class in America has been disappearing for a long time. And I think that's such a weird projection onto Cuba to be like, oh, you definitely own plantations then if you had
also people just
any ounce of money besides poverty. Like that just how you don't understand your history. You're projecting everything. Like it's just
people also just
so
like
bizarre.
They don't also know like Cuban history. But like aside from the Cuba thing, it's like then like my stepsister was saying to me yesterday too, she's like, also it's like if people fucking knew, like, and this isn't some like white savior shit of like the amount of opportunity that my mom has then created for other Latin women in her industry and the amount of women that she's hired and like brought up with her up the ladder. Like, and that's the shit that you and I always talk about. And I always talk about it too with like other like Latinas in media. I'm like, bitch, like you don't think that every step I take, I'm like dragging 5 of you with me up there? Like,
but you know, if you say that publicly, they'll drag you for doing it for clout and attention. So it's like, what do you want?
You can't win.
Do you want me to live authentically? Do you want me to yell about it? Like, which one? Because either way, you're going to get mad. So why don't you just focus on yourself?
Exactly. And so I think that's just the point of what I'm trying to say, of what I was saying before, of like, the stress ball is out of, you know.
Like, anytime we talk about the Cuba TikTok, the stress ball comes out.
I've got a pen in one hand, I got a stress ball in the other. Like I'm in. That's the point that I was trying to make of these other creators like Teffy and Drew who like won't stand for your shit, is like we're realizing that we're never going to win. And all we can do is try and do the best that we can and make people's days a little brighter. And if you're going to scream at me for it, like I send you love and light. in the most condescending way possible.
I was waiting for the follow-up. Beautiful
Period.
place to end. Love that.
Yeah. Way to guide this convo, by the way. You really brought up some topics that I didn't
Did I?
expect to have. And
The shadow one really sent us,
I'm
which was
glad.
good because
And
as
the
I was
clothing one
talking.
too.
Oh, thank you. Because I told you as I was talking about shadow, my shadow came out because I was so mad at Mahal, who now, of course, that we're completely done, is in the midst of a gorgeous nap.
Yeah.
So
Thank God
comfy
you
and
really
passed
did.
out.
Because, like, guys, if you could see my notes, they're so stupid. Like, the first thing that I told Meadow that I wanted to talk about on here today, like, was the dumbest thing I've ever said out loud.
Yeah, but I'm so excited
gonna
to talk about it on
Patreon.
Patreon. Please come to the Patreon because we're going to talk about more of it.
Okay. Thanks for listening.
Another solo in the books. Thanks for
Another
listening to
solo
us
in the
talk about
books.
TikTok for another hour.
Please go
Rate and review.
rate and review.
Ring the
Thank
bell.
you.
Watch our episodes on YouTube. Let me tell you,
I like our YouTube.
As someone that's also a YouTube girly, just in general, our YouTube's fun because you miss a lot of context clues by only listening.
I put out a ring light for you fuckers. Go watch the YouTube. All right, we're done. We're done. Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to the Thoughts May Vary podcast every Monday.